Good afternoon. The United Nations humanitarian chief has said the tide is turning in the humanitarian crisis in Gaza, though accessing the north of the Strip remains a major challenge. Meanwhile, pressure is growing on Hamas to hand over the remains of 18 more deceased hostages. Israel has confirmed that a body returned yesterday is that of a former hostage.
A convoy carrying the remains of a deceased hostage handed over by Hamas overnight. 75-year-old cattle farmer Eliyahu Margalit from Kibbutz Nizor was killed and his body abducted by the militants on October 7th. The pressure is growing on Hamas to return the remaining 18 bodies in the coming days. Other nations, including Turkey, vowed to help with specialised equipment to retrieve the remains. In Gaza, the United Nations says it is accelerating its efforts to alleviate the hunger crisis. This bakery in Deir al-Balah has come back to life, with 30 more bakeries promised by the UN.
They are now pumping out 300,000 pieces of bread every single day, and that's because we can now get the flour, the sugar, the yeast in, but also importantly, the fuel that actually motors these machines.
As Palestinians slowly return home, they are being warned of another danger, of unexploded mines, grenades and bombs. Moving on to the next phase of the peace plan could prove difficult. In recent days, Hamas officials have ruled out disarmament, wanting to maintain security control in Gaza during an interim period. Tanya Royd, RT News.
It appears unlikely that Ukraine will secure Tomahawk missiles from the US in the near future. At a meeting with the Ukrainian president, US President Donald Trump did not rule out the possibility of selling the weapons to Ukraine, but emphasized the need for peace.
President Trump, sir, do you believe you can convince Vladimir Putin to end the war in Ukraine?
Arriving to the White House, Volodymyr Zelensky had hoped this could have been his chance to convince his US counterpart to sell Tomahawk missiles to Ukraine. But with news that the Russian president is now due to have another face-to-face of his own with Donald Trump in a couple of weeks' time, the emphasis shifted. And while Tomahawks were part of the conversation, President Trump was non-committal.
They're an amazing weapon. They're a very powerful weapon, but they're a very dangerous weapon, and it could mean big, escalation. It could mean a lot of bad things can happen.
And it was clear the US president wanted to focus on peace talks.
I think that President Putin wants to end the war, or I wouldn't be talking this way. I think he wants to end the war. I spoke to him yesterday for 2.5 hours. We went through a lot of details. He wants to get it ended. I think that President Zelensky wants to get it ended. Now we have to get it done.
On leaving the White House, Volodymyr Zelensky was asked if he remained optimistic about getting US Tomahawk missiles. He didn't mince his words.
I'm realistic.
Attention now turns to the Trump-Putin summit in 2 weeks' time. Laura Fletcher, RTE News.
The rising costs of medical negligence is one of the biggest challenges for the health service, according to the Irish Hospitals Consultants Association. Its president, Professor Gabrielle Colleran, told the association's annual conference in Kilkenny that the current estimated liability associated with the State Claims Agency for health claims is €5.3 billion.
What we've seen is that in the last 15 years, since 2010, the outstanding liability for the State Claims Agency has risen from 900 million to now 5.35 billion. So that's a huge cost to the taxpayer, but there is a very human cost in terms of the patients who have a legitimate claim that are waiting many years for that to be settled. There can be a lot of additional emotional trauma throughout that process, and then there's that secondary effect on the doctors and the midwives.
Hundreds of people have taken part in a protest in Middleton in County Cork over what they say is the lack of response to the flooding caused by Storm Babette 2 years ago. More than 600 homes and over 200 businesses in the Middleton region were impacted by floodwaters, with estimates putting the damage at around €200 million. Protesters are calling for urgent flood measures. Meanwhile, flooding is expected in parts of County Cork tonight as the state's orange rain warning comes into effect for the county and neighbouring Waterford at 8 p.m. It's due to last until 5 a.m. A 12-hour yellow rain warning will also be in place for Carlow, Kilkenny, Wexford from 8 p.m. this evening. And that's Saturday's lunchtime news from all the team here. Good afternoon.